Let's stick with television, the influences on George Lucas. Now, this TV series had a likely influence on George Lucas as well. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. Lost in Space. Came out in 1965 and ran until 1968. The story was based on an 1812 novel about a family of space colonists, the Swiss family Robinson. And it was written by Johan David Weiss, a German writer. And he adopted that story about space colonists off of a real family who were shipwrecked in the East Indies and their adventures that they had after getting shipwrecked. So he simulated their adventures into a space adventure. And it became a cryogenically frozen family that travels the galaxy in their ship called Jupiter 2. And the closer that they get to their destination, the more they become unfrozen until they get to their destination and completely unfrozen. But the problem is that there is a saboteur on this Jupiter 2. And the saboteur is Dr. Smith. The Dr. Smith is a saboteur because Dr. Smith works for another planet. Another nation. What other nation does Dr. Smith works for? He works for another nation. Which one? Another one. So it never says which one. It just says he works for another nation. So Dr. Smith sabotages what they're up to by programming the Jupiter 2's robot to destroy vital information. And that throws the ship off course. The robot then sends Jupiter 2 into hyperdrive and lost in space. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, Will Robinson. Does that feel like an influence? Yeah, it's a big influence. Let's talk about the biggest influence of all between movies and TV series. The biggest influence of all. On September 8, 1966, Star Trek by Gene Roddenberry. No doubt influenced the later Star Wars. September 8, 1966, Gene Roddenberry comes out with Star Trek, boldly going on the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701, voyaging the Milky Way galaxy from 2266 to 2269, not too far away from 2022. 2266 to 2269, USS Enterprise boldly going, NCC 1701, defending the United Federations of Planets. Gene Roddenberry was a visionary. As I say, I am the Gene Roddenberry of underwater sci-fi. It's like Gene Roddenberry influences Star Wars, influences so many. There were sci-fi movies we mentioned from 1902 with Georges Méliès all the way up until 1966. But comes Star Trek and this visionary. I'm the visionary, the Gene Roddenberry of underwater sci-fi. The Aqua-Fi is visionary underwater sci-fi. It's going where no other underwater sci-fi has ever been. And there were some before, but not doing this, not opening underwater into a world vast. TheAquaFi.com. Get the Aqua-Fi. You'll get it in a day or two from Amazon Kindle. Read it. Be up on it every time we have a podcast. Listen while you're reading your book. We're going to talk some more about that. Gene Roddenberry is a visionary. He knew what he had. He presented his work for a pilot to CBS. CBS turned him down flat, wanted nothing to do with it, rejected Gene Roddenberry. Good thing. He knew what he had, stayed focused, went to NBC. NBC gave him the okay to have Star Trek pilot. In Star Trek pilot, and here's how visionary Gene Roddenberry is. He casts an actor named William Shatner, a Canadian actor named William Shatner, as James T. Kirk. He also casts a Scottish chief engineer, James Doohan, as Mr. Scott. He cast a Japanese helmsman, George Takei Sulu. Canadian, Scottish, Japanese. Then he casts an African American woman as communication chief of NCC 1701, the Enterprise. The communication chief is an African American woman, Uhura, natural blown out African American woman, natural blown out hair, and communication, head of the communication department in this city, right? The Enterprise is not just a little ship, it's an actual city. So in this giant organization, an African American woman in 1966, and take any woman in 1966, is the head of what organization? So to have an African American woman heading communications for this giant organization is visionary. Nichelle Nichols, the ship's doctor, McCoy DeForest Kelly. So then you have American, African American, woman, Scottish, Japanese, Canadian, and also the visionary to have a half Vulcan, half human, Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy. So every time you say Mr. Spock, you got to put your right hand up like two thumbs on the right, two fingers on the right together, two fingers on the left together, spread apart, looking like peace. So you'll have three fingers on one side and two on the other. Live long and prosper. So if you can do this, when you put your hand up, if you can do this sign, you will live long and prosper. But us Trekkies can do it with both hands, with the right and the left. So if you can do it with your right, you live long and prosper. If you bring up both hands and you can do it with both hands, you will live longer and prosper more. So this is live long and prosper. This is live longer and prosper more. So if you want to live longer, work on this all day and next week and next month, and then you will live longer and prosper more. Don't forget Chekhov. Yeah, Mr. Chekhov.